Before we get too far into this, what I call collaborative consultation, where we're recognizing Mortemia's latest entry on the currently developing the COVID aftermath sessions, I do apologize that in the time between Crockevisa's debut and now, it's taken me this many months to get back to this release. And you know I love Mortemia, and my intention was to get back to it a lot sooner than now, but it is my forte to be the better late than never type guy. As much as I wish it wasn't the case, that's just what continues to happen. You know, we engage together with so many wonderful artists here of diverse outlets, typically though of metal and rock voice. But when you couple that time that I wish to get to so many artists in recognition and spotlight, like I've given several with Mortemia's respect, when you pair that with how busy and unstructured my life has been, it's just a cause for disaster. And yet you make the best of it, no matter how long it takes. And so here we are again with Mortemia, I'm in quite an honorable position with his works. I've been since the beginning. Or Morten Veland, very much the mastermind behind this project. Whether it would be the COVID Aftermath sessions or its predecessor, the Pandemic Pandemonium sessions, both works are absolutely beautiful. Certainly with his mastery of invention and score and destination of where each track goes, on individual standing and as a considered sum. But the collaborative respect, really, for me, what is Mortemia's greatest asset, and what I love about our journeys together is examining and getting a better self-led understanding, of course, with the hand-holding of all of you guys and your recommendations of new groups to catalog in our time together. Having this networking path to introduce myself to new artists by just even association, and this being the herald fanfare to where we go in our future journeys and voyages. And that is very much the case of Margarita Monet. It's been quite an honor for me to utilize Mortemia and the pieces as part of both album constructions as a sort of glamorous tool in networking out new points of reference and interest for me in terms of accessing new artists around the world. And I say around the world, even though with respect to Mortemia, there's a concentration of European-based singers from notable metal outlets or emerging voices. I can think of a good mixture of cases, but there's been some deviations from time to time, and we have one such example with Margarita Monet, who is such a beautiful name, by the way. She is, I don't know if Edge of Paradise, her big name group, if they are of European origin. I haven't looked in that affirmatively yet. I do know that she is the first ever artist to grace this channel of Armenian origin, and I'm quite curious to get a new introduction to potential accents, as if there is one. Again, this is very much my first step into the Armenian vocalist world. I'm curious to see if there's a bit of deviation from what I'm familiarized to in the broader respect of European metal, which I am in mad love over, and certainly of anything of a symphonic and gothic nature, which is where Mortemia's visions are centralized in on musical stylization. I am sure not Edge of Paradise, I'm getting ahead of myself. Eyes of the Viper will thrill us and be a great herald for our future journeys of Edge of Paradise, which, before anybody asks, Edge of Paradise is already cataloged on my Phase 2 list. I've already mapped out our selection. I don't know when that'll be that we'll take that ride, but I'm already planning on it, and I'm looking forward to that journey whenever that is. I did just see, in fact, for their latest entry, Rogue something else. I forget the full name of it, but it was just debuted off of Napalm Records YouTube channel, their newest visualizer, and I believe song. So I'm looking forward to those days whenever they are. But this is going to be our first doorway into the Margarita Monet / Edge of Paradise world, courtesy of Mortemia. And however you approach, whether you're a longtime fan of Mortemia's works or an initiate listener, if you're walking in, this is a terrific Norwegian-based voice. You're really going to like what Mortemia or Morten Veland has to offer through these works. And again, with the collaborative model, each artist he's brought on is perfect to the numbers suitability, and I'm sure Margarita Monet will be no differentiation or exception from that. Maybe you're walking in to being, like myself, introduced to her as well, or maybe you're an Edge of Paradise fan. That certainly advances me. However you approach, I always preach this because it's true. Music is best enjoyed in company, and I hope you feel welcome here. Let's examine Eyes of the Viper together for a first introduction after how many months of waiting to get to this. I'm catching up with COVID Aftermath sessions, finally. I've been meaning to. So far on the voice of the COVID Aftermath sessions, I think this is the hardest number yet. At least for the first couple of seconds, it's got a far more assertive riff backing. Bit of an elevated, fainter, youthful pitch. I really like what I'm hearing her. Kind of a pop quality, too. Yeah, definitive pop edge interwoven into the score too, as light as it might be. It's isolated to such an extreme, but it's inescapable, at least in that sentiment. Each voice of Mortemia's works, especially on this album, specified. We have not seen a presence, I don't think, in our time together yet of examining each entry. Margarita stands well in her own individuality. She is a very creative interlacing within the symphonic metal sphere. Every second of this number really does flesh itself out well. Depending on what key is centralized and more superficial focus. And it's plenty, points of reference and variation as we're witnessing now. A light twinge, I think maybe, we're already seeing the return back to earlier measures of the song. But it's a piece with expectant and fitting adaptation that really, like I said, allows emplacement for Margarita to jump around a bit. As I said, variation. And each agent works beautifully in company. Vocals, instrumental, it's a fantastic pair. As I said, every artist brought on to either project is suited for the number, and Margarita is no exception at all. I find it quite fascinating to listen to her, and I will tell you that as the number runs its course, I do hear a bit of a light reminiscence, though the youthfulness and quality of execution is not necessarily identical, but because of the vocal stylization, it reminds me a lot of Linda Toni Grahn, who graced Forever and Beyond on the Pandemic Pandemonium sessions. It was a great attribute to that number, just like Margarita for Eyes of the Viper is a beautiful aid. But again, the youthful quality and this natural eeriness interwoven into a pop-esque metal vocal style, I find really interesting. And there are certain sections, again, like I said, where the number is designed by the instrumentals. I think it's in the transition between the first verse and chorus. But you hear even just a subtle allowance for a pop tone to take shape. That, again, is already demonstrated well in effect by Margarita's voice alone. But then you hear the instrumental mimic. It's fascinating, I think. As brief as it is, there's a sense of harmony again between different agents of the number and how it establishes its voice. And I do find Eyes of the Viper, as we start, to be again a point of differentiation, though the Mortemia stylization becomes quite evident and clear and familiar as we evolve in the duration and we get to the number's end, conclusion. We definitely hear an establishment of a very different voice from the COVID Aftermath sessions, and not one we've heard yet. Even though there are heavy riffs maybe interwoven into the song, the introduction is not different. The preceding entries incorporate a softer origin that develops over time into perhaps a crescendo effect with respect to the riffs, if that is designed for the number's evolution. We don't hear it in the first couple of seconds and have the softer cue abandoned, which this one, for the most part, does. So it feels like it's more in spirit to the energy of the Pandemic Pandemonium sessions and quite reminiscent of the effect of that. where the COVID Aftermath sessions, and like I said, with respect to both album titles and the way that the tunes have evolved their visions so far, there are different tones that the albums incorporate. The first one, given the name, appears as a little more dreary and tragic and aggressively contemplative, versus this one that is a little more hopeful and has a serenity to it. Even with, again, some of the harder sections to different numbers, it carries on a happier, more evident positive vibe. And this one sort of switches things up, which is natural. You might have a pause number that will give some breath to an album or some alteration. And this was the case as well with some of the pacing of pieces incorporated into the vision of the Pandemic Pandemonium sessions. So in spirit of what's graced us before, we have the follow-up mimic the same type of path. I really like it, though, as a work. Eyes of the Viper, based on the key choice and the wonderful incorporation of Margarita's vocal structure, but again, that youthfulness and the eerie pop tone with respect to, maybe it's her accent or it is a natural aspect to the way her vocals evolve based on the higher pitch. And she climbs well. And based on key changes, she's perfect for that role too. I mean, the jump was fitting. Again, like I said, each agent of this song expresses itself in a synonymous and clear harmony. I really like what we've witnessed together. And that's true to the entirety of the COVID Aftermath sessions thus far. I'm sure to the successor piece we have to get to, that'll be the same respect. But Eyes of the Viper is a first introduction to me to a new artist's name. Again, this is why I love covering Mortemia. Same style that I have a definitive reverence for in the symphonic and gothic metal spheres, but coupled with a fresh introduction to a very capable lead vocalist, and the number suited for that person or individual as such. I really admire the construction of framework as to the Mortemia collaborative model in whatever project we're looking at or whatever track individually. And Eyes of the Viper I find to be quite, a substantial treat for me, as every entry so far has been. And I hope for you it's a similar story, though again, music is first and foremost a subjective art, so any of your independent thoughts and recollection of experience with Eyes of the Viper, feel free to chime in down below. And how do you approach this one? Mortemia fan or Mortemia newbie? Margarita Monet newbie, again, beautiful name, and I cannot wait to look into Edge of Paradise and see where her voice is placed there with respect to her natural genre placement based on that group, or some of her other collaborative projects. I think I've noted a couple that I found in reference. I'm looking forward to that day, whenever it is. But for now, of our latest Mortemia entry, again, the COVID Aftermath sessions, I continue to say it because it's true, no matter how long it takes me to get back to it. And I won't be so late with the next entry. The COVID Aftermath sessions, like the Pandemic Pandemonium sessions, its predecessor, evolves itself very well with each subsequent entry, and the vision of Mortemia's brilliance becomes even clearer over time. Thank you so much for watching this video. Before you bounce, feel free to drop a like and comment, subscribe to this channel with a ding on the bell, and share this video with your friends. And consider checking out the description here. There you'll find links to my other channels, as well as addresses to my other social media accounts and ways you can help support my work if you feel so inclined. May God bless you, and looking forward to when our paths cross again.